You can find the product featured in today's video and many more at Dan's Dinosaurs. Check out his site at the link in the description below, and be sure to mention that Killer Shrew Fan sent you. Now, on to the review. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Killer Shrew Fan's Killer Toy Reviews. Today we're going to be knocking out another PNSO review. It's Isaac the Sauropelta. I know I've got a Nanmu Giga to take a look at for all of you, but if I don't keep doing PNSO reviews, then soon enough I'll be buried in them all over again. I'll bet you it's going to be any day now that they start up again with their releases, if they haven't already by the time this video gets put together. So I'm going to opt to take a look at Isaac today, and Behemoth will have to wait for another time. But that's the good thing about plastic models, isn't it? They never run away. Anywho, on to Isaac here. Isaac was another totally unexpected surprise from PNSO, and a pleasant one at that. There aren't a lot of decent Sauropelta models out there, with the only notable example being the Safari LTD offering, so I was excited to be adding another one to the collection. Now that he's here, how did he turn out? And is he a match for the beautiful Safari offering? Well, let's find out. First up, as always, the packaging. Just as a sort of general note, I love how small the box is. Is it weird to think that it's kinda cute? I mean, it's like a little baby box. Anyway, it's standard PNSO fare, the blank white background with the glamour shot of Isaac on both sides and looking just absolutely fantastic, I must say. You've got the orange PNSO Prehistoric Animal Range logo on the top left corner in Chinese on one side and an English translation on the other, which is appreciated for my non-bilingual self. You can also see that Isaac here is number 38 in the ever-growing lineup. The top of the box features another angle of the Paint Master, as well as the logo once again, along with the tagline, "Every life deserves respect." As with all of the other PNSO models so far, Isaac does come with a booklet featuring photos of the model, some info on PNSO, as well as a child's-friendly introduction to Isaac and a skeletal diagram of the dinosaur. But enough about the packaging, let's talk about Isaac himself. And there he is, with a nice 360-degree look, and the first thing I gotta praise about this figure is I absolutely love the rotund look to him. The arched back and sagging gut just gives him a very rounded look, and I love me a plump herbivore model, so that's something the figure has going for it right out of the gate. One thing I noticed right away would be just how similar the pose of this figure is to the illustration in Carpenter's paper on Sauropelta, right down to the curvature of the tail. Now, Carpenter attributed the sort of hunched back of Sauropelta to the length of the arms being shorter than that of the legs, so it's nice to see PNSO sort of paying tribute to that idea, even if it may not be entirely in vogue anymore. I really don't know. Basically, the only paper I found on Sauropelta was that Carpenter one. Regardless, let's go in for a closer look, starting as we always do with the head. PNSO have really captured that tapering nodosaur skull quite well here, and the detail is all fantastic. All of the large armored scales have been very well sculpted, and I am loving the treatment of the nostrils and beak on this thing. The eye is done in that shark eye treatment with the flat black paint, which you all know I'm not a huge fan of. I also think the head could really benefit from some washes, since some of the features and details, namely the post-orbital and jugal scoots, could really use some more definition. Now, washes were present in the promo images, but sadly did not make it onto the final product, which is something PNSO is known for. Instead, it looks like we got a lot more of that peach color, which was also advertised, which I do like the addition of, but I would have preferred more details in the paint as opposed to more colors. Moving down the body, this is where things get a bit googly with this figure. It's been pointed out in other reviews that the arrangement of the armored spikes is a bit different than what you would typically associate with Sauropelta. For the sake of a visual aid, I'm going to jump the comparison gun here and bring in the Safari LTD offering of the species. That figure has the row of larger spikes sort of riding up onto the shoulders, while while the row of smaller spikes run laterally down the neck on both sides. Interestingly, PNSO have flipped the script with the row of larger spikes running down the side of the neck while the short ones sit on top. I've seen it mentioned that this is a phylogenetic inference based on Sauropelta, which we'll get to eventually, but beyond a passing comment, I haven't seen or heard anything about how Sauropelta is shaking up our perceptions of Sauropelta. So please, if anyone out there could point me in the direction of a paper or any such information, that would be very much appreciated. That little anomaly aside, how are the spikes themselves sculpted? Well, for one thing, they are missing the keel present on the fossil remains, again, present on the safari offering, so that's a bit of a bummer on PNSO's part. They do have some nice wear with cracks and ridges, but the paint job doesn't really highlight that detail like it did in the promo images, which is really a shame because the armor looks awesome there. What paint we did get is a bit underwhelming, particularly on the oval plates on the top of the neck where the application is a bit sloppy. Let's focus on some positives. If we move down the body, you can see that this figure has an absolute ton of sculptural detail, featuring rounded, non-overlapping scales of varying shapes and sizes, as well as osteoderms growing on the flanks, arms, and thighs of the animal. The lateral spikes continue all the way down the tip of that extremely long Sauropelta tail. You've also got some nice wrinkles and hanging skin around the limbs and the sagging gut of the model, and all of it looks just absolutely fantastic. Again, it could have benefited from just a little more paint to make it all pop, but given the sheer level of detail present, it is at least noticeable no matter what. The limbs of the figure are wonderful, both gracile yet robust, and I love the armor that runs down the arms. It gives Isaac a very rugged, intimidating look. There's some great wrinkles and folds of skin down around the ankles of the figure, and I love the treatment of the toes on the left arm. There's a real sense of movement to them that I greatly appreciate. Moving along the underside, you can see more of that peach color on the lower jaw and flanking the neck, and I love the sort of pulling tendons just past the pectoral region there. The scale detail is more rectangular down here, and on the stomach you can see the PNSO logo, and just past that you can see you have got the cloaca slit. Now let's talk about the defining feature of Sauropelta, and most notosaurs when you think of it, the armor. Looking at Isaac from a dorsal view, you can get a good look at all the sculpted details in his armor. There's the osteoderms sprinkled throughout the smaller scales, and PNSO have applied a light gray dry brush across the top to really bring all of that detail out. But if you were to look at the skeletal remains of Sauropelta, you would see that there is a general disparity in the armor of the sacral shield and that of the rest of the body. The sacral shield here is treated well with the sort of dome-shaped osteoderms running in transverse rows above the haunches, but the area in front of the sacral shield should have more conical overlapping growths, which Isaac lacks. Again, to compare it to Safari's offering, you can see the disparity and how much more apparent it is on that figure. Accuracy aside, I think the sculpt work is objectively well done on Isaac, and that dry brushing really helps all of it be immediately noticeable. As far as the pose of the figure goes, we already kind of touched upon it. Isaac is taking a short stride forward, head down, while his tail waves out behind him. It's a very simplistic yet natural and believable pose. The tail might be a little bendy, but I like it, if only for the fact that the whole thing feels like a modern take on an old school idea of Sauropelta. As far as the paint scheme goes, I think it was a really smart move to include those peach tones. Otherwise, it's just a grayscale dinosaur. The underbelly is a light gray that transitions to the dark gray of the dorsal region, and yeah, then there's gray dry brushing. The peach coloration thrown in makes for some good breakup and provides the model with more eye-catching visual interest. The dry brushing on the back itself is quite effective, but some of those techniques really could have helped the lateral regions of the figure. Honestly, just a wash or two really would have made this thing sing, but for what it is, I like it. I think it's a far cry better than the work on Gavin the Sauropelta, and I even prefer it to Safari's offering. Let's do some measurements. Isaac comes in at right around 7 inches long or 18 centimeters in a straight measurement from tail to snout, and stands in at just under 2¼ inches off the ground or around 5½ centimeters. Sauropelta size estimates range from 17 to 21 feet, which would put this model in the 1/29 to 1/36 scale depending on which estimates you adhere to. Now for some comparisons. We've already brought in the Safari Ltd Sauropelta, but let's just have a look at the two together one more time. They are pretty similar in terms of their overall size, but Isaac might have a little extra bulk to him. If you wanted me to choose between one or the other, that's a really tough choice. I think I like them both for different reasons, and if anything, the Safari one shows that they can certainly hang with the best of them when it comes to detail. And then the only other Sauropelta I have is the Mattel Savage Strike offering, and you can see that even that one seems to follow the more standard depiction of Sauropelta armor. It's not an accurate figure or anything, but if you're looking for classic Sauropelta armor depictions, then I guess it hits that note. And then for the heck of it, here it is with the Papo Polacanthus, the first figure I ever reviewed on my channel, and it is certainly a unique take on that particular nodosaur. Alright, and now for some PNSO comparisons. First up, here it is with the recently reviewed Achi the Sinoceratops, and you can see that he looks to be quite big next to little Isaac there. And then we have Rosanna the Miragaya. None of these PNSO figures are all that huge, but Isaac certainly appears to be the smallest of them out of the ones I have so far, if that tells you anything about his size. Next we have Ashu, who towers over little Isaac here, but I actually like how their colors play off of one another. These are among the few examples of PNSO figures to have the sort of cooler tones, so I appreciate them for that fact alone. Then we have Domingo the Carnotaurus, who always looks so happy to be on camera, doesn't he? And you can see that he stands a fair bit over Isaac there. And here is Essien 2.0, the Spinosaurus, the first of the new wave I took a look at on the channel, and he seems to come the closest to being able to see Isaac eye to eye. Of course, gotta bring in Seed, the Ankylosaurus, still one of the best PNSO have ever done in my eyes, and I do think these guys look pretty great together. That's the great thing about PNSO, basically all of their figures, whether they would have encountered one another or not, all look so cool when displayed side by side. The style of PNSO is so distinct from other brands, and it's one of the reasons I love them. By the way, if you're interested in seeing more of these figures, check out the description for links to previous reviews. I've also got a whole playlist if you have an afternoon to kill. And gotta do the T-Rex comparison. Here it is with Wilson 3.0, and yeah, he sure does make Isaac look tiny. Still, if anything, this shows PNSO have mastered the art of detail on both large and small scale models. But if you want to talk about figures that really make Isaac look tiny, here it is with the PNSO Huanga Titan. And that massive figure dwarfs just about any I have in my collection, let alone little Isaac here. And that was the PNSO Sauropelta Isaac. Overall, I really do like this figure. It's far from my favorite to come out so far, but it has all the right things you look for in a decent dinosaur model offering. The sculpt is very well done, the paint job for the price point is competent, and the dry brushing helps all of the sculpted detail on the back really pop. I really enjoy the pose of it as well. There are some interesting decisions in terms of accuracy, so if you're really a stickler for that, you might as well just stick with the Safari Ltd offering. But if you're okay with a little artistic license, then I'd say Isaac will be right at home amongst the high-end offerings of your collection. It's a lot that comes in a little package, and I definitely dig it. As always, I want to know what you guys think of this figure. Do you own it yet? Are you planning on picking it up? What is your preferred Sauropelta model? And what nodosaur do you want to see from PNSO next? Leave all your thoughts in the comments section below. As always, thank you so much for tuning in to today's review. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you again for the next one. Until then, take care out there, and bye-bye.